A day after former Bangladesh Prime Minister fled her country and landed in India, Sheikh Hasina's son Sajib Wajid has expressed his concerns over the anarchy in the country. Speaking to WION's principal diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibal, Wajid said Bangladesh will now become Pakistan. Hasina's son pointed out how the international community was busy criticizing his mother for what he called this and that. The comments come a day after India's neighborhood nation saw chaotic developments, and Hasina fled the country after giving her resignation. Sheikh Hasina is expected to leave for London, where she may seek political asylum. She is likely to stay in India until UK grants asylum. The UN Secretary General Antonio Gutteres has urged calm in Bangladesh after the resignation and departure of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. He highlighted the need for a peaceful, orderly and democratic transition. India is closely monitoring the situation in Bangladesh amid announcement of an interim government. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar chaired an all-party meeting to discuss the fall of Sheikh Hasina and her government and the army's takeover. Sheikh Hasina is currently reported to be staying at an air base under the protection of the Indian Armed Force commandos. India's NSA, Ajit Doval, met Hasina after she landed at an airbase near Delhi and discussed the situation in Bangladesh. As Israel braces for Iran's retaliation, United States President Joe Biden has held crisis talks with his national security team. Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris were briefed on the threats posed by Iran and its proxies. The leaders discussed efforts to de-escalate tensions, particularly through the ceasefire hostage release deal currently on the table between Israel and Hamas. The White House said that they were also updated on US military efforts to support Israel's defense. Of late, US has sent extra warships and fighter jets to the region. A fresh rocket attack on a military base in Iraq has wounded several US personnel. 2 Katyusha rockets were fired at the base, latest in a series of attacks targeting Al-Assad base in western Iraq. The base hosts American troops as well as personnel from the US-led coalition against the Islamic State group. It was unclear whether the attack was linked to threats by Iran over the killing of Hamas leader. The officials told that base personnel were conducting a post-attack damage assessment. Biden has said that the US will respond in a manner and a place of its choosing. US CENTCOM Chief General Michael Kurilla arrived in Israel as part of steps to mitigate the possibility of escalation. Kurilla met with Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant in Tel Aviv. Gallant told the US commander that his arrival was a direct translation of US support for Israel. Kurilla also met with Israel's military chief, Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, for a security assessment. Kurilla is the head of the US military command covering West Asia. While the US has promised a retaliation following the missile attack on a US base in Iraq, US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has said that the US is working around the clock to prevent escalation. Blinken has urged Israel and Hamas to break the cycle of violence by reaching a ceasefire, saying that escalation would only lead to more conflict, more violence, more insecurity. Israel has returned the bodies of 80 Palestinians who were previously taken from various graves and locations from Gaza Strip. The information was shared by Palestinian officials who claimed that it was unclear if the bodies were dug up during Israeli ground offensive or they were detainees who died in custody. A mass burial was held in Khan Yunis after retrieval of corpses. The Israeli hostages' families forum questioned Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Following advisories from various Western countries to exit Lebanon at the earliest, emergency medical supplies arrived on Monday to equip Lebanon's hospitals for possible war injuries. The World Health Organization delivered 32 tons of medical supplies, including at least 1,000 trauma kits. Hospitals in southern Lebanon are worn down by years of economic meltdown as well as tit-for-tat exchanges between Israel and Hezbollah. Over the last 10 months since war broke out in Gaza, they've struggled to cope with wounded patients. Nine United Nations employees have been linked to the October 7th attack on Israel by Hamas. The UN said that employees of UNRWA for Palestinian refugees may have been involved in the attack. UN spokesperson Farhan Haq has said that there is sufficient information for the termination of the said 9 individuals. However, UN stated that it will evaluate any further steps to fully corroborate the allegations. The agency further added that staff must respect its policies, including the humanitarian principle of neutrality. At least 5 people, including 3 children, were injured in Russia's Kursk region after an overnight Ukrainian attack. The interim governor of the region told that Russian air defense systems destroyed at least 26 Ukraine-launched drones overnight. Attacks were followed a series of drone strikes and shelling incidents from Ukraine during the day. Several residential buildings were damaged in the town of Sudza in Kursk, which borders Ukraine. Ukraine often targets Russia's military, energy and transport infrastructure to undermine Russian war efforts. Kamala Harris is closing in on her vice presidential pick, with an announcement expected within 24 hours. Harris has reportedly been interviewing. She's been interviewing Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, and several others as she shortlists her running mate. Harris and her running mate will, after the selection, campaign in 6 states: Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada. They will hold rallies in each location along the tour, which will include college campuses, historically black universities, union halls and restaurants. A blood test could potentially turn around UK's economy. According to a report, a new blood test for people over 40 could save the UK economy £12 billion a year. The test can detect 200 diseases, including common cancers. OCO Global, a consultancy firm, suggests that if Britain's National Health Service offers comprehensive tests, health problems can be detected much earlier, saving both lives and money. Each test will cost around £230, amounting to £650 million a year for the NHS, but it could boost the economy by £11.7 billion annually after 16 years. A stock rout in Japan wiped out $15 billion of SoftBank Group's value after the company's biggest single-day fall since 1998. This was the worst performance for the tech giant's stock since its listing 25 years ago. The stock has now extended its decline for the September quarter so far to 38%. in line to be the biggest such drop since 2001. The plunge comes as founder Masayoshi Son prepares an investment blitz in AI and semiconductor technologies. A US judge has ruled that Google violated antitrust laws, spending billions of dollars to create an illegal monopoly and become the world's default search engine. This marks the first big win for federal authorities, taking on big tech's market dominance. The ruling paves the way for a second trial to determine potential fixes, possibly including a breakup of Google parent Alphabet. This could change the landscape of the online advertising world that Google has dominated for years. It is also a green light to aggressive US antitrust enforcers prosecuting big tech, a sector that has been under fire from across the political spectrum. The World Bank is assessing the impact of events in Bangladesh on its loan program after its Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina resigned and fled. The World Bank approved two projects totaling $900 million to help Bangladesh strengthen fiscal and financial sector policies. The World Bank was among the first development partners to support Bangladesh following its independence. Since then, the bank has committed about $41 billion in grants and interest-free credits to the disaster-prone country. Total World Bank commitments to Bangladesh stand at $2.85 billion in 2024. Chinese tech giants as well as startups are reportedly stockpiling high-bandwidth memory semiconductors from Samsung Electronics. The companies have ramped up their buying of artificial intelligence capable in semiconductors since early this year. China accounted for about 30% of Samsung's HBM chip revenue in the first half of 2024. The country is gearing up to keep its technology ambitions on track amid rising trade tensions with the US and other Western nations. US authorities are planning to unveil an export control package this month that will impose new restrictions on shipments for China's semiconductor industry. CrowdStrike is facing a lawsuit from air travelers following a global computer outage just last month that disrupted flights, banks, hospitals and emergency services. Filed in Austin, Texas, the class action lawsuit accuses CrowdStrike of negligence in software testing and deployment. Plaintiffs claim they incurred significant expenses and inconveniences and argue that the outage was foreseeable due to similar tech issues that occurred in 2023 in the airline industry. In response, CrowdStrike stated, and I'm going to quote here, "We believe this case lacks merit and we will vigorously defend the company." As per a report by a Chinese state-backed newspaper, China has launched the first batch of satellites for a mega constellation designed to rival Elon Musk's Starlink. Led by Shanghai Spacecom Satellite Technology, also known as SSST, the launch is part of its 1,000 Sails constellation plan, also known as the G60 Starlink plan. The launch marks an important step in Beijing's strategic goal of creating its own version of Starlink. China is aiming to provide a global network coverage by 2027 and deploy around 15,000 low Earth orbit satellites before 2030. Elon Musk has reopened a legal battle against artificial intelligence development firm OpenAI and its CEO Sam Altman. Musk's complaint centers on his belief that OpenAI has prioritized profit and commercial gain over the public good. The lawsuit claims that once OpenAI's generative AI technology began to flourish, Altman shifted focus to monetizing the innovation. Previously, in June, Musk had withdrawn a similar lawsuit against OpenAI and Altman, which criticized them for deviating from their initial mission of creating AI to benefit humanity. Indian Association of Startups Alliance of Digital India Foundation has lodged a complaint with the Competition Commission of India, accusing Google of anti-competitive behavior in the online advertising sector. The association has highlighted several grievances, including restrictive ad policies that unfairly limit options for advertisers. Additionally, the association has criticized Google's ad ranking system that keeps advertisers uninformed about the specifics of the services they purchase. Following the landfall on Monday as Category 1 hurricane, Debbie has now weakened into a tropical storm. According to National Hurricane Center, heavy rains continued in the town at Florida's Gulf Coast hours after Debbie's landfall. Around 280,000 residents were without power in the state, according to Power Outage US. Debbie is on track to unleash a week of torrential rain and catastrophic flooding across the southeast. Forecasters expect 4 to 7 major Atlantic hurricanes in the 2024 season, which would exceed the record-breaking 2005 season that included Hurricane Katrina. A recent study revealed that India's coastal cities are vulnerable to rising sea levels due to climate change. The report said that India's financial hub of Mumbai may lose 10% of its land to rising sea levels in just 15 years. The report has raised alarm bells about the escalating threat of sea level rise to India's coastal cities. Further, Mumbai has experienced the most significant rise in sea levels among 15 major coastal cities in recent decades. The other coastal cities impacted are Haldia, Visakhapatnam, Kochi, Paradip and Chennai. The sectors most vulnerable include water, agriculture, forest and biodiversity.